So I've had a lot of requests for what to do if you're a skier or a snowboarder and you are getting shin splints. Incredibly painful. It's almost like the plantar fasciitis for the front of the leg, and this is not something that you have to live with. However, you do need to be proactive with it because chasing shin splints is definitely not something that you want to continue to do and can just never quite get better, especially if you're in mid-season when it comes to skiing or snowboarding. So just as a review, with a ski boot and with a hard boot for snowboarding or soft boot, your foot is really stuck at a 90-degree angle and sometimes even less than that, depending on how aggressive you are as a rider. And for a lot of us, that just is not a normal position. And that lack of mobility creates a lot of activation here in the front leg muscles, one in particular. But also, if when you're riding, and something to pay attention to, if you lift up with your toes in your boots, a lot of people do this when they're wearing ill-fitting shoes. So sloppy shoes will either create like a down grip or an up grip. Typically, like sandals, we down grip, and then like boots, we up grip. And that can create a lot of over flaring and a lot of kind of irritation in the leg muscles in front of the leg. So the key here is we're going to focus on the front of the leg, the shin, but we're also going to focus on some neighboring areas that can be part of the cause or maybe one of the culprits of why you have shin splints. Okay, so first things first, we want to get out of that 90-degree position here in the ankle as much as we can, as often as we can. So when you are done snowboarding, done skiing, you got to get your boots off. Okay, you got to get your boots off and move your feet. Don't just walk around in that perfect 90-degree angle again, because you're just going to create more irritation. So whether you do this the morning before you go out boarding or you do this a few times a week, totally up to you. Let's just check how willing are our ankles to sit in this type of a position. For some of you, you may be more like this. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't even get my ankles in an extension like that. And if that's the case, take like a sweatshirt or take a blanket and roll that up underneath your ankle. You could even bunch some of the mat until you get enough of a support where you still feel a good stretch, but it's not causing so much pain and discomfort that you feel like you just want to like rip your legs off, okay? So we want to try to sit back as much as we can, stick something between your hips if needed, okay? So that you can be here comfortably. And already now I am not putting the pressure directly on my ankles now, I'm putting it actually on my hips. So if you lack mobility due to life's choices, or sometimes we blame age or injury, then you want to kind of adjust that. So I might feel this through the knees, another reason to bring your hips up, but the focus here is that lower leg, that lower shank, and through the ankle. Also take a look at your feet. Do my toes turn in? This will tell you a lot about the tension through the front of the ankle. Maybe the outside is a little bit more overstretched than the inside, or vice versa. I see this a lot with students that have collapsed feet, or when they walk, their toes turn in or out. And you can even look at the tread on the bottom of your shoe, and that will tell you a lot about how you roll through the foot and possibly where and which side of the leg is maybe more restricted than the other. So we're going to try to keep it simple here, though. So I'm here. This is going to be step one. I'm going to sit in this hero's position to stretch through the front of my leg. Comfortable for some people, uncomfortable for others. And we also have to get it into our head that we don't need to be feeling extreme things in order for that movement or exercise to be effective. For some of us, it's like if it's not ripping or tearing, or if it's not killing me, it must not be doing anything. And that necessarily isn't the case. We want to be able to stretch smart, and we want to be able to create healthy movement patterns that can really aid us for the long haul beyond skiing and snowboard season. Okay, so how long can I sit like this? Can I do it for a minute? Can I do it for the length of a commercial, if people even watch that anymore? Can I sit on the phone and talk? Can I type on my computer maybe at the coffee table? Even just a few minutes like this also helps with things like varicose veins, circulation, and again, yes, shin splints. So that's movement number one. We can go back to the previous video, and we can go back into that toe stretch again. And if you need to sit on something, and I can work through the feet here. Remember, foot mobility is going to heavily influence and impact how your shins feel shin splints. So I can work back into that toe exercise as well, do those rollings with the balls of the feet as well. Once you've done that for a few breaths, can kind of move your feet around, move your toes around. Now this is where you'll need a foam roller. This is just a chopped foam roller so that it's smaller, but you by all means could use a larger foam roller. Now there's different densities. This is what's considered a standard density. If you have shin splints, if your shins are super sensitive, your tissues are super sensitive, you do not need a high density roller. You can actually bruise those tissues, and now you have to recover from the bruising, and it's just not worth it. So I always just like more of a standard density one, one that has a little bit of give, and you can always work up from there once your tissues have more resiliency. Okay, so you're gonna take your foam roller. This one I love doing. I would do this every day. Do this before you go out on the hill. You're gonna take that foam roller and just place it right on your knees, and then come into an all fours position. And all you're gonna do is roll out your shins from your knees to your ankles. Now you might not be able to get the whole thing in one big stride, so maybe then you could start at like your mid shin and then roll all the way to the ankles. This is where people go wrong. They roll the belly of the muscle or the central part of that body part, but they don't go from joint to joint. So I want you to roll from your knee joint all the way to your ankle and maybe even onto the top of the foot. And you're gonna do this several times. Notice how I'm not moving super fast. This might feel like a lumpy couch. This might feel like gravel in a Ziploc bag. And the idea is, can I smooth out the gravel? Okay, all of that bumpiness you're feeling are adhesions, basically in your fascia tissue. It's sticky, okay, because you're not stretching. You might be a little dehydrated. You might be deficient in some vital minerals, collagen, vitamin C, protein. So vitamin C and protein are the big ones for muscle, but collagen also helps. And again, water, hydration. When your tissues are sticky, they're not as mobile. We want elastic-like tissues, not plastic-like tissues. So I'm gonna do this several times. Now, as I'm doing this, I can lean onto my right leg a little bit more. I'm actually kind of lifting my left leg, and I am going to put a lot more emphasis on that left shin. Now I can do the same thing on the opposite side. So if you know you have shin splints on one leg, good news. You can really work that out. How many times do I do this? You're gonna do this 10, 20 times. You're gonna do this for 1, 2, 3 minutes. As you start to feel that kind of soften, and let's say on a tension scale or a discomfort scale, because it's not pain, it's discomfort, you're started out at a 7. I want you to try to work back to like a 3 or a 4, maybe even a 5 if this is your first time. But this isn't the only thing you're gonna roll. So this is where, again, people go wrong. You can't just focus on the area that has the issue, because a lot of times that's not just the area that has pain. Remember, our body is like one big Gumby, okay, or one big stretchy man. So if I have one area of the body that has pain and tension, we have to look around what could be pulling at it, what could be holding onto it, and we want to be able to release that part too. And where we want to focus is what's called the iliotibial band down the side of the leg. So that means from the outer hip, where the hip kind of protrudes out, all the way down to the side of the knee, because we have what's called an anterior tibialis. There's a muscle that's kind of on the front outer part of the shin that does affect shin splints and does cause pain in the front of the lower leg or the front of the calf, some people call it that. And sometimes we think we have shin splints, where really we just have a really tight anterior tibialis, which can be caused from snowboarding, can be caused, I see it a lot in runners, and just people that don't take their shoes off and utilize their lower legs like they're supposed to. So we're gonna roll out that IT band. And again, doesn't matter what kind of foam roller you use. Mine's just a little mini cutoff one. Got a hair in my face, there we go. I'm gonna come down to my forearm. So you notice how now I'm kind of horizontal equally. I'm not gonna strain my neck. If I'm like way up here and you're struggling to stay upright, you might end up causing more pain somewhere else. So palm or forearm, just try to stay low. I can take my top foot and I can support myself. So now I have something to push myself with, or I can just stack my feet and hover, totally up to you. As I roll, I'm gonna roll, if you have pants on, you're gonna roll all the way up to the top of your pant line, basically to where your true waist starts. And then you're gonna roll down all the way to the knee. I'm going to start a little bit lower so I don't lose you guys. There we go. So I'm going to roll all the way to the outside of the knee. You got to go to the knee. Do not stop until you are all the way to the knee. So I'm going up to the hip, and then I'm going down to the knee. This is either a movement people love or they hate or they love to hate. Now, as you roll out the IT band, it's short for iliotibial band. It's actually the largest fibrous band tissue in our body. And all of our leg muscles attach onto it. So our quads, our hamstrings, some of our glute, it crosses down over to the lower part of the leg. So a really important band that when it's tight, it can cause a lot of problems. So I'm going to lean forward just a little bit so I can get a little bit of that vastus lateralis, which is our quad. I'm going to go all the way up into the hip flexor area and then come all the way down, which is kind of the front part of that IT band. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to rock back and just try to get that back edge. Don't go too far. We're at an angle. And we're going to work this. How many times? Well, if you can give me 5 swipes, awesome. If you can give me 10 swipes, cool. If you can go for a minute or 2 on both legs, great. So as you work that, just be willing to kind of tip so you can get all angles of that. By releasing this band, if you're struggling also with things like back pain or hip pain or maybe tension in the outer hip, tension through the glute, and you can't figure out why, this might be the band that you need to focus on. This is an absolute must area for snowboarders and skiers to create more elasticity and more mobility, because the tighter this guy is, the harder it's going to be to you to get in your squat position, the more tension you're going to feel on your knees, and yes, more than likely you are going to start feeling shin splint issues. So we rolled out the shin, we stretched the front of the leg, we rolled out the IT band. The next thing we're going to focus on here is you're going to take that guy and get rid of that guy. Is we're going to come up to standing. I'm going to show you one more move for that shin that is focused now on the back of the leg. Last move I want to show you to help with shin splints is a functional calf stretch or a functional calf release. By releasing the back of the shin or the back of the leg can dramatically help reduce some of the pain and discomfort in the front. Not to mention, when you release the calf, it also is going to help you deepen your squat when you're snowboarding. So if your coach is telling you, sit deeper, and you're like, I can't, or you find that in order to squat, which you can check yourself right now, you're either leaning into your toes and your heels are lifting, or your knees are coming pretty far forward, not allowing you to sit back, that is a sure sign that your calves are way too tight. Also, when you're snowboarding or skiing on the hill for long bouts of time, your calf is the hydraulic pump for the heart. So it actually, when you walk, it contracts and brings that blood flow back up to the heart again. And so when you're not walking and contracting that calf muscle over long periods of time, we see this a lot with people that sit or stand in place for a job for those long periods. That is going to inhibit and put stress on the heart, but also leave all of that blood flow in the lower leg. So another good reason to practice this move just regularly throughout the day. So we're going to start out just by standing nice and tall, and you're going to take just a very small step back. So if you notice, my length is about 2 foot lengths back, and you're going to be about hips distance. If this is a little unstable, go wider. And then double, triple check that back heel. So naturally when you step back, because most of us have tight outer hips due to the amount of sitting that we do, that heel, you can see, naturally kicks in. I want you to kick it out. And this is best done at least the first time in bare feet so you can get a sense for it, so that the outer edge of the foot lines up with the outer edge of your yoga mat or the wall or a line on the floor, whatever. Now that's going to make you feel pigeon-toed or like your leg is spiraling in, but it's not, which is a good sign for you to see like, oh my gosh, I am really tight on the outer leg. Now I'm going to bend the front knee slightly. Now the goal is to keep the back heel down, keep it from kicking in, but also keep the knee tracking forward. So when you bend the back knee, we want to try to avoid collapsing inward on the ankle and the knee. All right, so as you breathe out, just bend the back knee and hold it for about 3 to 4 counts, and then release back up again. I'm just moving the back leg, not the front leg. And you're going to do this about 10 times. So exhale, bend and hold, and then inhale, release up. I can probably just get that heel out a little farther. Exhale, bend. Remember, I'm looking down at my knee to see that direction. Now you can use support if it feels a little unwobbly. This feels kind of counterintuitive for shin splints, but when that lower leg is so locked up, you have to release it. It's like plastic bags or saran wrap wrapped around that lower leg, and you could be feeling some of this calf restriction in that front shin. Now, as you do this, you might notice that the front of the leg equally has tension as you do this functional calf stretch. You can do this during the day while you're standing, while you're brushing your teeth, standing in line somewhere, talking on the phone, even just a couple of rounds before you put your snowboard or your ski boots on. So you want to do 10 on each side. Once you've done that 10, just switch, and usually one leg has kind of better alignment than the other. So again, double, triple check that. This is not a big stride. I've had people that their feet are one right behind the other because their calves and lower leg are so locked up. So wider if necessary. Kick the heel out even a little bit more for good measure, and then bend the back knee. Notice my knee again. This is dropped in. This is forward, keeping that back heel down. It might be helpful to have someone stand behind you the first few times you do it and watch the ankle, because the tighter the outer front shin, the more that ankle is going to collapse in. You might be someone that calls themselves flat-footed, which there's no such thing, by the way. We are an adaptation to our environment over time. So if you're wearing different shoes or walking a certain way, leg rotation, all can add to how it is that your body moves or doesn't move. So you can correct that. Again, I'm going to do about 10. Notice which side feels a little bit different. So if you're noticing, ooh, I have a lot of tension up at the knee attachments on one leg, but it's way down kind of in the front calf or the front shin on the other leg, that can also clue you in to where you should be foam rolling and kind of paying attention to those areas in a little bit more detail. So 10 times on each side, functional calf stretch. Do one of these movements, do all of these movements, do none of these movements. But no matter what, I want you healthy down the hill, able to move in the ways that your body are designed to, so you can get the best time, the best experience, and the best results out on the hill. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.